Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know I might look a little bit tired today, but that's because we just finished day 11 of working on my latest feature film called Contamination. It's a military horror film set in the Alaskan wilderness about a black ops team that's sent to a remote secret lab to recover some valuable information. And things don't go as planned. It's been one heck of a ride so far. We've had a lot of filming days so far, but and being an independent film, the days aren't back to back, so we tend to have a few days in between. That's usually, due to location changes and things like this, location availability, and of course, due to our limited budget. That said, I thought, looking back on the last few days, I was thinking about all the lessons I've learned over the course of this film, but also over the course of my first feature that I directed called Spin the Wheel, which is available on streaming platforms as we speak. And I thought it might be nice to share some of my takeaways that I've had from working on independent films, not just my own, but on other people's sets as well. And so here are my top 5 takeaways of working on a truly independent film. Number one, I think, and most importantly in a lot of ways, is it's important to be professional on a movie set. A lot of times people think, an indie set isn't like a real movie set, but it should be treated as such. Regardless of the size or scale of the film that you're working on, I think it's vitally important for anyone to show up on a set and treat it like an office setting. Making films is a fun job, but it's still a job. And I think that the people that are there deserve a level of respect for all their hard work. Sometimes people on an indie set especially, they're there to do it as a hobby, or maybe it's a one-off. Maybe they're on a scene as an extra, or maybe they're just helping out for the day as a favor to the filmmaker, that sort of thing, either in front of or behind the camera. But it's easy to get into the mind space that this is just for fun, or it's a joke. Just because people are having a good time, just because they're making jokes in between takes and things like this, it can tend to be a very lighthearted endeavor. And that's really a sort of a way that a lot of film people are. They're a lot of fun to be around and fun to work with. However, they take their jobs very seriously. And what somebody who's an outsider might not realize is that for most of the folks working on this project, this is their career. So with that said, there's a certain level of professionalism that should be a part of the system, regardless of the scale of the project. I like to think people should treat it like an office setting in a lot of ways. That means you can joke around with people, you can have fun, but when it's time to work, you work. Yeah, I think that's just a good way of looking at it. And that kind of leads me into my second tip, which is you have to be flexible on a movie set, any movie set, whether that's indie or large scale. It doesn't really matter the size of the budget. I think as part of cast or crew, it requires a certain amount of flexibility on everyone's part, because this can be due to anything from scheduling changes to location changes to the way the particular scene is filmed on that day. Everyone needs to sort of be of the mindset that there's a general plan going into any given day or any given scene, but things happen. Things happen that require changes. And across the board, it's one of those things. If you think to yourself, okay, we've got a plan A, but now we also have a plan B and a plan C. And sometimes all the planning in the world won't be enough, and you have to wing it. And it's being in the right mindset that helps you get to that point. My third takeaway from working on an indie film set is that rewrites are the norm. And I say this as a writer, but I also say this as a director who's worked with writers and as an actor who's worked with other writers. A lot of times, rewrites are required. Sometimes on the fly, sometimes a day or two before, sometimes a week before you film. It really depends on the project and it depends on the circumstances of the project. And sometimes rewrites are necessitated because of specific changes. I've been part of film shoots where we've had to do rewrites simply because of locations. We've had to do rewrites because of actor or cinematographer input on a given scene. I've had to do rewrites for all manner of reasons. Sometimes it's because certain studios or investors or producers have notes for the filmmaker that they want to see certain things incorporated or changed, and then it comes down to the writer to work in those changes in such a way as to still stay true to the filmmaker's vision. And then that leads me to my fourth takeaway, which is, as a filmmaker, you have to trust your cast and crew. You've hired a group of people for positions in front of and behind the camera, and it takes a certain amount of trust on your part to say, these are the right people for these positions, and I need to believe in them in order to make my film, because nobody can do it alone. It really does take a village to make a movie, and the best way to do that is to hire the best people possible. Sometimes that can be very limited if you have a small budget in terms of the pool of people that are available to you. But even within small pools, I think it's a filmmaker's due diligence to try and find the best people available and not simply give positions to family or friends because they'll work for free. But that said, it leads me to my fifth point, which is once you put your trust into your cast and crew, you should also trust yourself. There are times when cast members, crew members will come to you with ideas on how to change a specific scene, how to change some dialogue, how to change some action, how to alter it in some way. And it might go against your initial plan. Sometimes these can be great ideas, better than what you came up with yourself. And this goes to point 4, which is saying trust your cast and crew. But at some point, you have to make that decision. And that's something that a lot of filmmakers, especially on the indie level or the newer level, tend to forget. Because they sometimes hire people who maybe have a little bit more experience than them, they might defer a little too much. And in the end, they're not very happy with the overall product. And they say to themselves, I should have trusted my gut. And this is where my advice comes in. Trust yourself. Trust your vision. This is your movie, first and foremost. As the filmmaker in charge, this is your creative vision. So the final call is yours. If there is a specific shot, if there is a specific moment, if there is a specific action, if there's a specific line of dialogue that you feel you can't get rid of, regardless of what everyone around you is saying, then fight for that moment. I don't think you should fight for every moment, because then that erodes the trust that you should have in the people around you. But there will be times when you have to stand up for what you believe in as well. And in those moments, you'll be glad that you did. And the people around you might have a newfound respect for you as well, because if it turns out that you were right, they will recognize that and they will respect it. And that's how you move forward. So I hope these 5 takeaways of working on an indie film set have helped in some way and might propel you with your own project. In the meantime, I'm going to keep working on my film. We've got a couple more days to go, film days. They are spread out over the next few weeks, but the end is now in sight. The finish line is close. In the meantime, please check out my film Spin the Wheel. It's available on various streaming platforms right now. There's a link below. And yeah, I'd really like to hear what you think of it once you do check it out. And I hope you'll check out our new film Contamination, which will be coming out over the coming year. Thanks everyone. As always, stay creative.